It's the same old story with Joel Embiid. Just,
who is now, by the way, no longer going to be eligible for the MVP as well.
yep, he has
Obviously,
been replaced in the All-Star game by Toronto's Scotty Barnes, by the way.
interesting choice.
Also,
So
quick side note on that, Julius Randle has been replaced by Atlanta's Trey Young.
okay, I like that decision. So Embiid obviously suffers a meniscus injury. Joel Embiid, who I defended for years, obviously did not play his first 2 years in the league because of injuries. Was an absolute monster when he came into the league, and Ben Simmons, and they took that over. And then Ben Simmons decided he didn't know how to shoot anymore, and they chose the series to Atlanta, and they lost the series to Toronto even a couple years before that, and they choked last Boston, and now Joel Embiid is hurt once again. Um, the Philadelphia 76ers, in my opinion, are suffering from the Philadelphia sports curse that we talked about a few weeks ago when it came to the Phillies and the Eagles and now the Sixers. And, we're going to tie this in a little bit here to the trade deadline. Obviously, the trade deadline is Thursday. We don't expect there to be a ton of major moves, but Philadelphia is collapsing right now. They're fifth in the East. Our hometown Cleveland Cavaliers are surging. Boston's at the top. You got Milwaukee there. The Knicks, who were playing great, obviously, led by Jalen Brunson. Indiana is a viable threat now with Tyrese Halliburton and Pascal Siakam. So I think Philadelphia's got to make a move. Who that move is for and what they can give up, probably, I don't know, maybe Tobias Harris. They don't have a ton, but you got to do something here, in my opinion, if you're Philly to save the season, because this thing is teetering. And a great player, Joel Embiid, he's a phenomenal player, but he cannot stay healthy.
And that's the problem. That's why I'm not sure if the 76ers are going to make a trade of any kind. I I totally hear what you're saying, and I don't disagree, but being that we don't know the extent of Joel Embiid's injury right now, we don't know if he could be back in time for a potential playoff push towards the end of the regular season. We don't know if his season is completely over. So if I'm the Sixers, I'm not going out and making a big move of any kind, being that we have that unknown piece in there. You know what I mean?
So
It,
I'll throw this at you. The report is he's going to be reevaluated in 4 weeks. Let's say, because he's a bigger man, takes him longer to recover. Let's say he's back in 6 weeks. Let's say he's back in the middle of March. And if you take a look at the Eastern Conference right now, we mentioned the top six. Orlando, they're decent, they're okay. Miami, we know they always surge in the postseason. Chicago, Atlanta, Brooklyn, I don't think they're that much threats.
no,
So really, Philadelphia, they're gonna make the postseason. The question is, can they stay in that top six to avoid the play-in tournament? I think they can. I think Tyrese Maxey is a very good player. I think Tobias Harris can step up. I think Nick Nurse a very good head coach. Maybe they slide down to six. Maybe Indiana replaces them, and then do they match up with a Cleveland or a Knicks in the first round? Because I think if they match up with one of those two teams, I think it's a good matchup for them. If they match up with a Milwaukee or even a Boston, I think it's a bad matchup for them. So Philadelphia, to me, is looking at this probably from a playoff perspective of which team are we most likely to match up with? Because there's two teams we like to match up with. There's two teams we don't like to match up with.
yeah. Um, I will say this. I'm not. You say Philly is going to be able to stay in the top six. I'm not 100% sure of that. Sure, Miami has been struggling a little bit recently, but they still have Jimmy Butler. They still have Bam Adebayo. They were just in the finals last year. They just brought in Terry Rozier. We know what Eric Spoelstra can do as their head coach. I would not be surprised if Miami is able to put it together and jump ahead of Philadelphia in the top six.
I don't think they have the same depth they did as last year, though, and it just does not feel like Jimmy Butler is going to be able to carry them again. Now, I could be wrong because playoff Jimmy is playoff Himmy. He's absolutely spectacular.
For sure.
Uh, but this NBA season is strange. I mean, our Cavaliers started off 500. Darius Garland and Evan Mobley went down, and I know I kind of thought the season was over. I kind of thought they would be looking to explore trades for Donovan Mitchell at the trade deadline, and yet the Cavs have only lost, what, 3 or 4 games since. They're now the number 2 or tied for the number 2 seed in the East with the Milwaukee Bucks. So maybe this is a case of, maybe Nick Nurse starts experimenting a little bit. Maybe the Sixers can get hot and get on a run, but they don't have the ability, I don't think, to replace the talent that Joel Embiid brings to them because he's a walking 30 to 35 points literally every single night.
But here's the issue. One, with the loss of Joel Embiid, the 76ers are going to have to learn to play a different way without him, right? And then you're going to have to reintroduce him, and they're almost going to have to backtrack, if you will, and like relearn to play with him. So it'll be interesting to see how that transition goes.
Yeah,
I think
and I'll be honest, and we both agreed on this, even though, they were getting hot and Embiid was the MVP favorite, I did not think that they were the favorites to get out of the East anyway. I think it just makes the road a lot harder. And, there was a debate a couple of years ago of which Philadelphia superstar Philly should trade, Ben Simmons or Joel Embiid. And I always said, well, I said personally, I would have stuck with both. That's before Ben Simmons went off the deep end. But I said, if you're going to trade one of them, you got to trade Ben Simmons just because of how special Joel Embiid is. I've made this argument about Kawhi Leonard, who is finally healthy, and the Clippers are surging, and nobody expected it after their horrific start to the season. I think Joel Embiid reminds you a lot of Kawhi Leonard. So talented, yet so hard. You can't depend on him. And if you're Philly, if you flame out again in the first round or the second round, do you consider moving on from Embiid? Because this is not NBA 2K. You're not turning injuries off. And I don't remember a season where Joel Embiid has been healthy for all 82 games.
even when he's been healthy for most of the season, what happens when he gets to the postseason? Injury of some sort, or he has to sit out a game or two because of stomach bug or whatever. You can't depend on him. So, you know what? I hate to say this, but I feel like Joel Embiid is this decade's version of Greg Oden. I hate to say that.
No, Joel Embiid has accomplished way more than Greg Oden already has.
I mean, in terms of the injuries and all that.
I can't put a. I get where you're, but Greg Oden never played, so that's a little bit of an unfair comparison because Oden never played. Oden was a bust. Oden was out of the league in 2 years. And
Yeah, I'm not. Trust me, I'm not talking about like what they achieved while in the NBA. I'm just talking about like the ability to stay on the court. That's all.
so real quickly here, we're gonna dive into the NBA trade deadline. Just give our quick thoughts on it, Josh. This year, obviously, last year was a crazy year of the deadline. Kevin Durant got moved to Phoenix. Kyrie Irving got moved to Dallas. The Lakers made all those moves at the trade deadline and reinvigorated their team. This year, the Clippers, Nuggets, Timberwolves, Thunder, obviously all tied up in the Western Conference. In the East, you got mostly the Cavs, Philly a little bit in there, Indiana a little bit in there, but it's mostly Cavs, Milwaukee, Knicks fighting for that 2-3-4. We mentioned Julius Randle being out for the Knicks. I don't see a move. Again, it wasn't for a bench guy or bench depth. A bad team maybe that a championship team goes out and gets a piece that could help them potentially make a conference or an NBA final. But I don't see a team this year making a drastic move at the trade deadline. With that being said, I'm going to throw one trade scenario at you, and
Go.
it's going to involve our Cleveland Cavaliers.
Okay.
So we talked about how ever since Darius Garland and Evan Mobley got injured, the Cavs completely took off. Donovan Mitchell has turned into a point/shooting guard. Max Strus started in the three. Sam Merrill has been a really nice bench piece. George Niang has been a really nice bench piece. Isaac Okoro has improved his offensive scoring. Jared Allen has been an absolute menace on both sides of the ball. It seemed like JB Bickerstaff has finally figured out how to coach a team. My fear is that once they fully get Garland and Mobley back, the Cavs are going to turn back to the same old Cavs. Donovan Mitchell is going to be worn down. The rotations are going to be screwed up again. And the Cavs are not going to be able to finish and get out of the first round. So I know there's a lot of thought out there about the Cavs are not going to make a move, and I would completely understand why. If they did, it might be a very small move to get a backup center. But I'm just saying, if I'm Kobe Allman, and I told you this in the offseason, I am still right now dangling Darius Garland because
No.
yes, because
No.
I'm trying to get a big wing. I'm trying to get a wing because we've seen what Mitchell can do now at the point guard position. We know he can be a point/shooting guard. You have Strus, you have Levert, you have Niang, you have Sam Merrill as your other guard/forward. I'm trying to get a Paul George from the Clippers if I possibly can. I
The
think
Clippers are not trading Paul George. Forget that.
Listen, I think that it's a deal that last year, maybe they don't do it now, but last year I think they would have absolutely done. You told me you thought they would have done. So, to
Well,
me,
now I've changed my mind.
to
I
me,
don't think either team would make that deal.
see,
Like,
I'm still dangling Darius Garland out there because I think you
get
still
out of
need a
here.
legit wing.
Stop.
No,
Stop, stop, stop.
so you're saying we don't need a legit wing. You would not trade Garland for a legit small forward.
I would trade a Coro for a legit small forward, not Garland.
But you're not gonna get something. The only way you're gonna get a superstar caliber forward is to get rid of one of your superstar players.
Who says you need a superstar small
I
forward?
do because that's how you win in this league. Where's the best positions in the NBA? Small.
What superstar small forward can you go out there and get? There,
I'm telling you, there's not a lot available, but I'm making calls. I'm making calls to Phoenix about Kevin Durant. I'm seeing what it would take. No, I'm serious. I'm throwing it out there.
you are being ridiculous right
No,
now.
I'm not. I
Yeah,
I would consider trading Evan Mobley for Kevin Durant. I
you
would
are
consider.
you are out of your
No,
mind.
I'm trying to win a championship. I'm not trying to get past the first round. I'm trying to win championship. Who cares about making it past the first round of the playoffs? This Cavs team, as built, is not a championship contender. I don't care what they're doing in the regular season. I can tell you exactly what's going to happen in the postseason. They're going to get bullied again, and they're going to get out coached again.
Man, you are talking nuts right now.
I'm not talking nuts because I've seen it. I've seen this team play around and almost lose to the Pistons.
I will agree with you that on that point. I don't get why the Pistons have given us a little more trouble this
Because
season.
the Cavs are they have a little bit more shooting. I think they're better than they were last year. They're obviously one of the hottest teams in the league, but the playoffs are a different animal. How many times have I said it?
By the way, on a completely separate note, but still related, I want to thank the Utah Jazz because they beat the Milwaukee Bucks on Sunday night in Utah. And then last night, we went out and beat the Sacramento Kings, which allowed us to not only tie the Milwaukee Bucks in the Central Division standings and the Eastern Conference standings, but we jumped them in both. We are now the number 2 seed in the Eastern Conference, and we are within striking distance of the Boston Celtics.
Who
And
cares
we're not.
about the Central Division title, Josh? Nobody knows the NBA even has divisions.
Anyway, Phoenix, Kevin Durant, this is the one time I am rooting for you. You guys are hosting Giannis and the Milwaukee Bucks tonight in a 2021 NBA Finals rematch. Phoenix, defend your home court. Go out there, beat Giannis, beat Damian Lillard, beat the Milwaukee Bucks. Help us out. We'll go out and take care of business tomorrow night in Washington against the Washington Wizards because the Wizards are pathetic.